Hello everyone, this is Prashant from Informatica Global Customer Support. In this video, we are going to discuss how to perform deployments between repositories using DeployDeploymentGroup command. The agenda of the video is to showcase the steps to perform static deployment between repositories of same domain using command line. So we can also deploy the objects between repositories of different domain, but the scope of this video is to focus on basic deployment steps between repositories of same domain and also about control files for deployment. Deployment between repositories of different domains we can discuss in upcoming videos. So the deployment from the command line can be achieved using the PMRep commands that we have, and these are the four commands that are mainly required in order to perform the deployment between the repositories. So the first command is the PMRep connect command in order to connect your source repository, and the second command is used to create your deployment groups, and the third command is used to add objects to your deployment group, and the final command is used to perform the deployment between your source repository and the target repository using a control file. So in the earlier slide we just mentioned the term control file that you has to be used in the deployment group. So this control file is basically kind of an XML file with the syntax of specific to Informatica. So this control file basically contains different parameters. These parameters are basically the actions that are performed during the process of deployment. So for example, you can see there are options like parameters like copy mapping persistent variables to yes. So it actually copies those mapping variable persistent values, and also it also whether to copy the workflow and session logs, it is set to no, and whether to validate the target repository, it is set to no. So if it is set to yes, then after the deployment, all the objects that has been deployed to the target repository will get validated, and if there are any errors, it will show up in the deployment log. And also we need to provide the source folder name where the objects of the source objects are present, and also we need to provide the target folder name, in case if there are any previous deployments already done, or any folder name if it's the first deployment. So this is basically a basic or simple example of the control file, and the control file actually gets complex on how much deployment you are doing and how many objects are present and what are the conditions on which how you want to perform the deployment. So in this next slide, we'll just see a basic demo on performing all the PMRep commands, and just perform a basic deployment using the command line. So I just logged into my Linux server box where we need to execute the PMRep commands in order to perform the deployment. So the first step we need to do is we need to go to the server bin directory under info home, and we need to connect to our repository service. So PCRS is my source repository service, so I have connected to it. And the next step we have to do is we have to perform the create deployment command if you do not have any existing deployment groups, or if you want to create a deployment group separately. So this is the deployment group, create deployment group command, which is having -p, that is the deployment group name, and -d is static or dynamic. So it's a type of deployments that are present. So static is basically we are already adding the objects on our own, um, and we are performing the deployment. Whereas dynamic is we have to provide a query to your repository service, so it will fetch the objects depending on your query, and it will deploy the objects. So let us just enter. Also, we have an option called -c where you can just provide some description on this deployment group. Okay, as is already present, we need to provide another name. So let me just, so our deployment group has also been created now. So we need to add objects to our deployment group. So we have this command PMRep add to deploy deployment group, and we have provided -p, that is the deployment group name as G3, and a -n is the object name, and -o is the object type, and -f is the folder where the object is present. So we have the objects that are to be deployed in our deployment group. So now we have to perform the deploy deployment group command using our control file. So this is the command I just wanted to execute as earlier. So I just cleared everything, the screen and everything, and this is the deploy options.xml that we have just seen earlier, and the repository service name, that is the target repository service name, and the domain name. So my source domain and the target domain is the same, and so that means my both the repositories are under the same domain. And -l is your deployment log file, so you can give any name and any convention, and it will log everything whatever the deployment has taken place. So we'll just run this command. So you can see the deployment group. In the sense, the deployment has been completed successfully, and obviously it would have returned the logging into the deploy.txt file. So let us just take the contents of it. So you can see that starting copy of the. So I think these are some earlier logging that has been done, but our actual deployment has started at this time, and sorry, at this time, yeah, and it has been completed successfully at this time. So this is how the deployment will be done, um, from the command line. And whenever you're performing the deployment, I think it's better to provide a different deployment log file, so that it will not overlap with the previous logging that has been done. So the this is it from the server side. I just want to also show you from the GUI, and just compare the GUI options with the control file that we have seen. So this is the deployment that we have created from the command line, and it actually shows there are 4 objects which you can see from the deployment groups, and G3. So this and also let me just show you one thing. We'll just copy this and we'll perform the deployment from the UI. So this is my target repository service, and I'll just paste it. So now you can see we have an options called use typical options when possible, show advanced options. So I'm just clicking next. We can see this as a source folder and a target folder that we need to provide here in order to override. And we have another options like to compare folders, clear contents of source development, retain sequence generator, normalize current values, retain integration service assignments, copy deployment group information, owner name, validate objects in the target repository, and deploy options .xml. So all these options, whichever that you are seeing in the GUI, is present as the parameters in the control file that we have seen earlier. So it is almost the same, not almost, the functionality is the same, but in the command line option we just need to mention it as the parameters on depending on your requirement. So, and one more option that we can see here is save deployment options in the following file. So this is actually this deploy options .xml is actually a control file that will be generated by the GUI itself. So you can actually use this for your future deployments using the same deployment group, or you can just edit it as well according to whatever the deployment you are making. So as a simple control file example, you can take this as a base and you can build upon it. So this would be actually present under your infra home of your client machine, power center, where your power center client resides. So that is it for the demo part. And as a summary, we just discussed about the PMRep commands that are required for the deployment, and also we have just discussed uh, some basics on the control file, or you can say an overview of the control file. So going forward, we can discuss more on the control files and also the deployment between repositories of different domains. So these are some useful KBs in regards to the command reference, and also some examples of your the control files, etc. So we would love to hear from you on support@informatica.com, and we are also available as Informatica support under Twitter, so you can reach out to us if you have any queries, concerns, or feedbacks. Thanks for your time watching this video. Have a nice day.